Salut everyone, welcome back to my channel. For those who don't know me, my name is Yiling, and in today's video I want to talk about things that I find unusual while living in France. Don't get me wrong, French culture is not strange to me. While we were living in France, we still go back to France to visit friends and family. So it's not something that I'm not used to, but it's just there are new things that pop up since I moved to France. Just a little disclaimer, these are the stuff that I personally experience and it's different from my culture and different from what I used to, but it might not be the same to you. Don't come and shoot me, okay? Now I'm going to split this topic into 3 parts. The first part will be the services, second will be the social life, and the last part will be the public culture. Are you ready? Let's get started. In France, it's all about the paperwork. Any administration that you want to do, there's always some paperwork to fill up. French administration is known for being slow. In the UK, pretty much everything are all done online. Usually the processing are pretty quick. Well, in France, be prepared to wait for months. So for example, when I was applying for my carte vitale, you have to submit few documents like your passport, your proof of address, your visa, and etc. etc. Long story short, three months or so. That's not only just happened to me, that also happens to some of my friends. Okay, let's move on to point number 2, which is the banking system. Many of the banks in France operate by the regions, where the national banks don't usually offer retail banking. So we have our bank in Normandy, and now that we moved to Brittany, if we have any issues with our account, or we have any inquiries with our account, or we want to apply for a mortgage, we have to contact our bank in Normandy, not in Brittany, although we have moved to Brittany, unless we move our home bank to the Brittany region. If you move house or move location, you want to tell your bank that you want to move your home bank. Another thing with banks in France is you will have to pay for some of the services. For example, with me, my first bank in France was with Credit Mutuel, and I opened a bank account with them. They asked me if I want a debit card. So if I want to apply for a debit card, I will have to pay a fee. Now, because I was using Revolut already, so I don't really need a French debit card. Whenever I make any purchase in France, I was just paying with my Revolut. So I said no. So I went for the most basic account, which is free. Now, obviously, the free accounts comes with the downside. This is not all the same for all the bank, but this is just with the Credit Mutuel that I was with. I was only allowed to log in into my online bank account twice a month. If I were to log in more than twice, I'm going to have to pay 50 cents of charge. So that became an issue because sometimes I log into my account and then I got distracted, I was doing something else, and then came back to it. It just locked me out because of a long inactive session. And then I was like, no, that was my last login session for the month. So I'm gonna have to wait for another month to be able to log into my bank account. And because of that reason, I have to change my bank. In the end, what we did was just opening a share account with Jeremy's bank. So that makes it a lot more easier. Whenever I need to spend anything, I can use his bank card, and we don't incur any extra costs as well. So a little tips for you: if you're already with someone who has a French bank account, you can just open a share account with them. That makes your life easier. Moving on to the third situation, the health reimbursement. In the UK, you are covered by NHS. If you are referred by the GP to visit a hospital, to get a treatment in the hospital, as long as you are referred by the GP, your treatment is free. All you have to do is just book an appointment, turn up for your appointment, and that's it. While in France, it works slightly different. If you're visiting doctor or dentist or any hospital treatment, you are going to have to pay in advance, and then you have to apply for your reimbursement. Of course, it's still a free treatment, but you have to have the money upfront to pay for it, and then you get your money back. So it's not really a straightforward process like in the UK. This is what I mean. The administration in France is a little bit complicated. Now we're gonna move on to the last situation for this category, a long lunch break. While I was working in the UK, I was only allowed 1 hour lunch break. Now in France, it's very normal that people take 1.5 hours to 2 hours lunch break. So during that period, please be aware that some of the shops or some of the offices will be closed. So you don't want to arrange your appointment during that period, or if you want to make a phone call to the customer service, they might be closed. So be aware of the lunch break. The French take their lunch break seriously. Some of them, I must admit, until now, I still couldn't adapt to the practice. Alright, in no particular order, the first one is the famous French la bise, the bisou bisou. So in France, when you meet someone, you give the bisou, 2 kisses. It gets complicated. If I don't know the person, I'm not sure if I should give them a kiss or not. I always refer to my husband. If he's giving that person a kiss, I will follow suit. If he's only doing the shake hand, I will just do the shake hand. Now, it depends on the relationship of the person. We wouldn't give kisses to someone like, a friend of uncle, some random neighbors on the street, people that we're not close with. Usually kisses are for people that you're friends with, people that you know and you're close with. So things can get quite complicated in that situation. In France, have a big gathering where there's a lot of people turn up. The first thing you have to do is to kiss everybody. Especially for women, I have to kiss the man and the woman. For the men, they only kiss the woman and they shake hands with the men. So for me, I have to go to every single person in the room to give kisses. That will probably take, depending how big the gathering is, that might take a good 5 minutes to kiss everyone. And then, for example, you've already done all your kisses and then you thought you're finished, but actually, no. So if someone just arrived to the event and you'll be expected to be there and stand by and wait for that person to come and kiss you. So it's a really whole routine here to get used to for the kisses. And especially to do la bise in the summer can be a little bit uncomfortable because, someone might have a sweaty face and then you just put on a nice makeup and then you kiss that person. And then although with the COVID, things has changed a little bit. Some people, they don't give kisses anymore if they are sick, or they just say, oh, I'm sick, I'm not gonna kiss you. And so it is starting to become a little bit more acceptable. So yes, la bise is a thing that I'm still not used to do. This is something that I can never get used to. We are raised not to wear outside shoes going inside the house, regardless of your own house or your friend's house or your family's house. If you don't remove your shoes before entering the house, it's actually considered rude and being disrespectful to the house owner. And I remember when I was a kid, when you got ready, you put your shoes on, you're outside the house, and then suddenly you realize, oh, I forgot my key or my wallet. All you want to do is just without taking off your shoes again. You just want to go in and out, need your stuff, and that's it. If I want to do that, I really need to check left, right, up and down to make sure my mom doesn't see me doing that, because if she does, she's gonna come and chase me with a broom. It's just how serious it is. So in Malaysia, it's really important not to wear shoes entering the house. Obviously, it's not the same case in France. Most of the time, especially you are a guest to someone, you're allowed to wear shoes. Although some of the younger family, especially family with kids, they start to practice not wearing shoes inside the house, probably due to the hygienic reason, because they are children. However, they still don't ask their guests to remove their shoes. So it's quite a relaxed situation. Now, my husband also quite opposed to wearing shoes inside the house. So what we normally do is we request our guests to remove their shoes before entering our house. And we do provide them house shoes if they want to. Yeah, so to my fellow Asians out there, please don't be shy. If you're not comfortable with your guests wearing shoes entering your house, feel free to ask them to remove their shoes, and 100% of the time they are okay with it. And also, if you do enter a French house, please don't feel obliged that you have to remove your shoes. If they're happy for you to wear your shoes, then feel free to do it. Even though when I go to my in-laws' house, they don't mind us wearing shoes inside the house, I still have the urge to have to remove my shoes and change to a house shoes, but I know that they don't mind me doing that, so I'll just go inside the house with my shoes. Alright, so now you know that when you're invited to a French house, you're not obliged to remove your outdoor shoes, and then you are required to give la bise to everyone in the house. Usually when we invite someone in Malaysia, the first thing when the guests arrive, they will be offered a seat immediately. Okay, so we will offer the seat, we will offer drinks. Do you want to drink something? Have a seat. However, in France, it's not like that. So every time when you enter a French house, after you do all the la bise, you won't immediately be offered a seat. So you'll be expected to stand there and then do a lot of chit-chatting. Okay, so just be prepared for that. It's not that they are rude or whatever. In Asia, it's disrespectful for the guest. Okay, but in France, that's not the case. They just welcome you in, they have a chat with you, but just standing in the corner, chit chat for a good, depending how long the conversation is. And then when the time comes, the host will invite you have a seat on the at the dining table or whatever the hosting place is. So yes, you don't get a seat immediately once you enter a house. That was my experience when I was invited to someone's house. I was thinking to myself, is this person not gonna let me sit or what? But yes, so that is just a ritual in France. Alright, so now then we are moving on to the mealtime. So usually the French will start with apéro, with a beer snack, with some drinks, and then move on to starter, and then if it's a big like Christmas dinner, you will have a sorbet after your starter. If not, we'll just straight into the main course, and then the cheese course, and then a dessert, and then a coffee. So there's a lot of courses going on, and be prepared that you'll be expected to be at the table for hours and hours. And then by the time you go home, that's probably like 1 at night. They chat, they drink, they eat. The French really value their social time during the meal. Now, if you're foreigners like me who has a lack of ability to understand French conversation, that can be a huge trouble for you. So just imagine being on the table for hours and hours, not knowing what's going on, and then sometimes people will just laugh left and right, and then you'll be like pretending you're knowing what they're talking, and you pretend to laugh, and by the time it hits 12 midnight, you start to doze off, and people just started their coffee. Well, don't get me wrong, I definitely enjoy having a meal with friends and family. It's just that in my culture, we don't tend to have a long meal time. When we have a gathering, we will have our food, we chit chat. Yes, we do the similar things with France, but then by the time when we finish meal, will probably be 9 p.m., 10 p.m. Everybody will just say bye-bye, they go home, or we can do our own thing. The kids will watch telly, the adults will play cards, for example. So everybody will have their own activities. And yes, in France, you'll be expected to stay on the table until the whole meal is finished. Alright, so now that we finish our meal, it's already 1 a.m. time to go home. We gotta say bye-bye to everyone. Be prepared for a long bye-bye. So they will get out and say, I gotta go now, it's late now, au revoir, bisous, bisous. Oh, by the way, tomorrow I was thinking going. The conversation continues after you say bye-bye. So there is one thing to be prepared as well in France. There's always a, oh yeah, by the way, after you say bye-bye. So for me, who don't understand French, sometimes I heard the words au revoir. I'll be like, yes, we're going home. But then 10 minutes later, I'm still at the same place. So yeah, that's another thing to be aware of when you're in France. When you hear the words au revoir, you gotta wait for at least a good 10 to 15 minutes, maybe sometimes even half an hour. Now it comes to one of the things that I find very surprised to see in the French household is the toilet. Okay, so how the toilet is. In Malaysia or the houses that I live in the UK, the toilet is inside the bathroom. So you go do your business and then you can go take a shower straight away. You can, brush your teeth, blah, blah, blah. You do everything in one spot. However, in France, most of the house have separate toilet and the bathroom. The strangest thing to me is some of the toilet has no sink and it's just a toilet, like literally a room, a small tiny room with a toilet. If you have claustrophobic, I'm sorry. So after you do your business, whatever, and if the toilet there is no sink, you're gonna have to find a sink. Now, if you're lucky, the bathroom is just next to the toilet, so you can just jump into the bathroom, clean your hand, and whatever. But some of the house, they will have the toilet on the west side and the bathroom on the east side. So without sink in the toilet, after you do your business, you have to walk across the hall and go to the sink in the bathroom to clean your hands. This is bizarre. And also having a toilet separate with bathroom, I think everybody will know what you're doing in the toilet, right? If you're staying in the toilet for a long time, I mean, what else? However, if you're in the bathroom for a long time, you could be taking shower, you could be doing your makeup, you could be, brushing your teeth. It can be many situations in the bathroom. In Malaysia, we have bidet. You know what bidet is for? It's to clean after you do your business in the toilet. Not the case in France. So if you're coming from Asia country like me who use bidet, be prepared when you come to France. The toilet is separate from the bathroom. There is no bidet in the toilet. There's just toilet paper. Yes, you're gonna have to wipe yourself and then find your way to the bathroom and probably clean yourself in the shower. So it's gonna be a little bit of an organization to clean yourself. In France, you call your elderly by name. So yeah, you just call your auntie, uncle by names. But the grandmas, they don't call it by name, not the father and not the mother, but yeah, usually your auntie, uncle. If you have a younger brother or younger sister, they'll call you by name. In Malaysia, it's a sign of disrespect to the elderly. We do have a a special terms to call your auntie, uncle, and then we have different title for a mother's side and your father's side and the ranking and everything. So yes, it does get complicated in Malaysia. Since I was young, I have to learn, okay, who is this person, who is that person. Sometimes you get confused. Yes, we do not call the elderly by name. My sister don't call me by name, and they'll call me by sister, like 姐姐姐姐 like means sister in Chinese. And I call my sister by name because they are younger than me. So yeah, that's just the differences between my Chinese culture and the French culture. Look guys, now I've got a French national football jersey and we got a Zidane at the back. That's not mine though, it's Jeremy's. So that brings me to my last point for this category. The French people have a very strong national pride. Just be careful when you talk about things related to French-made products to a French person. Well, it depends on who. Some people can be quite relaxed about it. Some people might not be. So, for example, I go to a French person, I'll be like, oh, do you know what? I'm not a big fan of French wine. I think it's meh. I would prefer Australian wine. Well, be prepared to get attacked by the French person. They're really proud of their food. So yes, everybody have their own preference. You can express your own opinion, but just be prepared that depending on who you talk to, they can be very defensive. So just be aware of that. Argument might rise up. French people do have a very strong national pride. If you're used to orderly public transport ethic, France might surprise you. In London, when you take the tube or the bus or any sort of public transport, there is a strong etiquette about it. You have to let people out before entering. You stand on the right side in the escalator. It makes sure there is a good flow, especially during peak hours. While in France, I would say the first time when I came to France 12 years ago, it was a chaos to take a public transport. And when I was in Paris, I'm like, let me out of the train! Open! So you're gonna have to fight your way to get out of the train. And then you might have to fight your way to get in the train. And if you're in a rush, the escalator is just full of people, they wouldn't let you move, they wouldn't budge. So it can be a situation, to be honest. However, there was one time I was taking the metro in the city center. I was surprised by how etiquette people are actually. It's exactly like in London. I think maybe because of the COVID that changes everything. I can see the sign, this is you go in, this is you go out, this is where you wait for the train and stuff. So in my city, it's not the same as how it used to be. But I'm not sure about the bigger city like in Paris. So I haven't been to Paris for a long time. I can't say for that. But I heard from some of my friends, things are not always the same, especially in the bigger cities. So just be aware of that. Now there is another etiquette in France that is super organized, super respectful, which you can find when you go to the bakery. The main religion in France is actually Catholic, but I secretly believe that the French do worship another god. And that god is called the bread god. So yes, the bread. The bread is so staple in French cuisine. Just like we Chinese, rice is, very staple to the Chinese cuisine. In France, every little village you go to, every town that you go to, you will definitely find a bakery. For example, where I live here, if I want to buy fruits, vegetable, or fish, I have to drive about 5 minutes to the nearest supermarket. But I can only walk 3 minutes to get my bread just down the road. So that's how important the boulangerie to the French people. They make sure they are in every corner of the country so that it's accessible to the people. That's what comes back to my logic about the bread god. Where a very religious country, they will make sure they have mosque, temple, everywhere, but in France is the bakery. The bakery is just everywhere. You will find queue lining out outside, especially during the weekend. But one thing for sure, you're not gonna regret queuing because the bread is so good. Okay, for those who love shopping, this is very important information that you have to listen to. Shops in France close rather earlier. I'm not talking about Paris because Paris is the biggest city in the country, so their operation hours might be different. For all the other cities, especially my city, if you want to go buy your groceries, if you're a 9-to-5 worker, you want to make sure you go buy your groceries before they close. Be aware that Sunday, most of the shops are closed. So, for example, the clothing shops, the electrical shops, toy shop, majority of them are closed on Sunday. The supermarket tends to open in the morning, say, I'm not sure, I think it depends on the area. Most of the time they open at 8 a.m., close at 12 p.m. If you really need to buy some groceries on Sunday, make sure you go during that time period. Now, that's one thing that caught my attention because in London, we do have shorter operating hours on Sunday. I think it's 6 hours you're only allowed to operate. But then in London, shops tends to open a little bit later on Sunday. So for example, they're open at 11 a.m. and close at 6 p.m. where usually Monday to Saturday, they might open at 9 a.m. So in London, it works differently. Shops tend to open later. So, for example, you have hangover on Saturday, you woke up late, and you still be able to do your shopping during those opening hours. Where in France, if you really miss the 12 p.m. closing time and you had a bad hangover, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to do your shopping on Monday. You wanna organize yourself in that way in France. Speaking about the shops opening hours in France now brings me to the next conversation, which is the holiday time. In France, everybody tends to take their holiday around the same time, especially in July and in August. So you will find that in the country, a lot of the shops or offices or factory, they close during that period. If you're a tourist, you want to come during that period, be prepared to pay a little bit more expensive for your trip. For example, your hotel will be more expensive, your visiting ticket might be more expensive because everybody takes holiday pretty much at the same time. If you have any appointments to make, try to arrange your appointments outside holiday periods. There's one situation we had that we had to fix our car, and that happened in August. We called the garage and unfortunately they closed and they only reopened in September. So we had to wait until September to fix our car. So yeah, that's just one thing that you just want to be aware of to arrange your time, but you just have to work around it. And yeah, that's it. That's all that I want to talk about my experience that I come across. To me, it's surprising to see, but it might not be for you. So you might have different experience, or you might come from a country that have a similar tradition or culture as the French. Everybody's experience is different. So don't judge me. Don't come and shoot me. I'm just sharing my own personal experience with you. If you do live in other countries or you live in France, let me know what other cultural shock experience that you come across. I would like to know about them. Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this content, please consider to like and subscribe. I would like to share with you more of my life in France. À bientôt!